Okay, welcome everybody to this evening's ACY webinar. My name is Duncan Cooper. Thanks for attending. Now, tonight's webinar is live forex market review, so we'll get to the charts in a moment. Before we do, if you can read through the disclaimer. Now, if you're on our YouTube live stream, I cannot see the chat, but you're more than welcome to watch. Or if you want to talk to me, just join me by using the link that I've provided, and you can join us like everybody else in the webinar. For those in the webinar, you can use the webinar chat box or the question and answer box to ask questions and talk to me. I'll see them coming in. So everybody, please read through the disclaimer. Or I'll move along. Now, if you're new to the webinars, my name is Duncan Cooper. I'm the Senior Market Strategist and Trading Mentor at ACY Securities, and I've been trading the forex market now for more than 15 years, mentoring for more than 10. If you want to contact me, my email's there, duncan.cooper@acy.com. Through the week, you can connect with me at our website. Just go to acy.com, Market News tab, or our YouTube channel, ACY Securities Australia, or you can connect with me on Twitter and LinkedIn at those handles. I'm putting some analysis through those handles through the week, and we've also got our Telegram channel ACY. If you want to get access to that, just contact Nathan.bray. His email's there on screen, but I'll put it in the chat in a moment. If you want to get access to my MT4 chart layouts and templates, ones I'm using in the webinars, just contact Nathan. He will be happy to set you up. So I'll just put his details in the chat. All right, so if you've got any questions, just contact Nathan. He'll be able to help you out with anything. All right, so let's get into the charts. Just before we do, let's get to the news. Of course, we're having some high impacting news items coming out over the last day and into this day. So last night we had the PPI data, and the core PPI data slightly upticked. So inflation potentially is still most definitely looming there in the US. FOMC meeting minutes came out. Not too much of a surprise there when that came out. And this evening at 10:30, we've got the more important inflationary figures coming out, CPI data coming out for the US. So the market will be clearly looking at these figures to see whether they come in on print or are they better or worse. Of course, if they come in way better, that's going to certainly give the market the anticipation that we might get another rate rise from the Fed. But we'll have to wait and see what these figures bring. So it is a bit dangerous to be just taking a position ahead of this item. Coming in at 10:30 p.m. This is Queensland time. If you're New South Wales, it's 11:30, and then wherever maybe what you are in the world, just have to work out what time zone you're in. So for me, it's 10:30 p.m. Queensland time. All right, let's get into the charts. We will just hop into the dollar index. So dollar index, if you've been watching my analysis, we're just having a week down after a 12-week run up. And the question is, how deep does the pullback come? We may just hold at these two weekly tops here. 105.87 down to 105.69. Or we could pull back to a deeper level, 104.66. So at the moment, the lower level, so we've got two weekly tops here, 1, 2. On the slightly lower one, we're pretty much sitting on there. Not able to close below that yesterday, and today we are holding just above. So we may only have a week down. We could still finish positive for the week by the end of the week. Who knows? So, we could be forming a little bit of a double bottom here. If we don't really pull back anymore, this could hold. If we break above previous day's high, we could just simply move all the way back up. And pairs to the US dollar, the euro dollar and pound dollar are holding at the resistance levels I discussed on Tuesday. So maybe support's going to hold here, and we see then a further continued move up for the dollar. Now, the S&P 500 hasn't yet got to the sell zone of the range that I'm watching yet. So on the weekly chart, we have rally to a lower top to a lower bottom, looking to rally up to form another lower top. Perfect world would be at this daily old support resistance area, now trading as resistance, and up at the 79% fib at 44.67, resistance at 44.60 now. May just come into the 62 to 79% area to fail. So that could spike up there today. We'll get the CPI data coming out. It all depends what CPI data does, but I'm just waiting to see how this comes up and holds and maybe fails to put in a lower top on the weekly chart. So it hasn't shown its hand yet that this upward move's finishing, but this is just corrective against the weekly trend, which is down. So waiting for some kind of top out up there for then the next move down potentially. All right, let's get into the currencies. Euro dollar. All right, so this is the area that I drew in on Tuesday. Expecting price to come into the area. Primarily, I was expecting price to come up to this. I don't really need that box in there because it has come up to the area that I was, the actual level I was expecting. Back to 106.35. And let's remove that. So if we go through the higher time frames, we're in a downtrend here on the weekly. And on the monthly chart, where we're coming back up to, it is a weekly area here. That's only a minor monthly low, but it is a monthly low here. It's a weekly low, and there's a historical monthly low over here at 106.35. So it's a very historical level that we're moving back into and holding out this week. And whilst the most significant last monthly chart low is down here, well, we've actually traded below two support areas based on the monthly chart here, 1 and 2. So there's more of a downward bias now to the monthly chart than it was before, and the weekly trend is quite clearly down. So at the moment, it's a question of how much of a rally do we get. Currently holding at this weekly level of broken support, now being resistance, and the next one up from that is at 108.33. So depending on what the news brings today, if we break above, we're probably going to 108.33. But at the moment, we are just holding there. And today's news will be the deciding factor as to whether we break above, or maybe we'll have another test at that level today and then want to trade down. It's a bit difficult at the moment, so it's good to know what levels to watch. Key level in focus at the moment is 106.35. We've just had a negative 4-hour candle after retargeting that level today. And of course, it's up to you whether you want to hold a position when the data comes out. We may see this first initial decline down today. We may see a rally back up to 79% level, for example. That overlaps perfectly with the monthly resistance level. That would be a perfect sell level. All depends what the news brings later on. So that's the perfect sell level. I'm going to be waiting after the news event to see what comes around and see if we do have an opportunity for a retest, and can we, look, or can I look to get short close up to this level, depending on what the news does. So that's the level I'm watching at the moment. Euro yen has come up to all the high points of last month. Is it going to falter at these high points or move up and through? I think if the euro dollar moves up and through, this will move up and through. So it's going to be a question of what the euro dollar does for the euro yen. There is a potential of some form of triple top forming here. We end up with a very negative candle today. Then I'm going to put a line on that top because it's the one that got false broke. It's at 51.8. And then there's these tops just here to the left, but that's the one we false broke last month, and then been ever for fractionally lower coming down, move above. That will be the question over the next 24 hours. So at the moment, I'm just waiting to see how the day closes today. Do we reject today and close down? Or do we move above and close above? Because if we get a rejection today, then it opens up the scenario of a double, triple top forming up here. And then I can start to look for some form of breakdown in price action to the downside. We haven't been able to get up to last month's high, 158.65. And the last 4-hour candles reversed. So you could actually be looking for a reversal. Just want to check the 4-hour chart again. Yep. So it's relatively small in range, this candle. It's only 26 pips. So it is a level to watch after the news tonight. What happens at that level? We could come up and tag last month's high and fail. That's up at 158.65. So we're definitely in a failing zone. I don't think it's quite showing its hand yet, and we need to wait for the news. But over the next 24 hours, do we see a reversal candle at this level? That may then be the first sign of reversal. All right, back down the range. So I'm just monitoring that. Euro pound, it's very range bound. Hasn't, since I did my analysis on Tuesday, come back up the range yet. Hadn't been able to retest the 62 level or come up to the 79% level. Hasn't broken this low, so price could still come up into these levels that I'm watching. So still watching. This is weekly resistance. Let's go to the daily chart. Weekly resistance is here from these highs to the left. So primarily we're getting held at that level this week. We got held there early in the week, so that would be the level I'll be primarily watching at the moment. Because since we touched it, we haven't been able to get back to it, but we may well come back up for a retest. So I will still be watching to see if we can come back up the range. 86.58 is the weekly level, overlapping with the 62% level at 86.59. So can we come up to this level? That will be the level I'll be watching for a failure if we can rally back up. All right, getting to the pound dollar. Now, this has failed today. Tried to move above my level yesterday and has been above the level today, but you can see in most recent price action, we've come back up to 23.08, tagged it and held. So this is the area I'm watching, this weekly low point here, 123.08. We've moved below it. Move to the weekly chart. Move below it. Is it going to become resistance for a further decline? Just having a week up. Barely had a week up through all this. We had actually a week up on that candle there, but then we had a down week in the same week. So it's like half a week up, half a week down. So really this is a 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 week decline. If it only has a week up before then we have a week down next week, that's a very weak rally. So level to watch at the moment is 23.08. Are we going to hold here to move back down the range? If we clearly break above, the next level to watch is at 124.48. That's actually a monthly high point. This is the monthly chart. It's this high point here. All right, so the question will be after the CPI data, do we hold or do we move above? All right, and I can't guarantee that when the CPI data comes out, it'll give you any opportunity to trade at these levels because I don't know what price will do. Price may just simply drop. It could simply break much higher, but these are the levels that I'm watching after the event. And over the next 24 to 48 hours, the levels I'm discussing, they could get retested over the next couple of days. We could drop today, for example, and then over the next 24 to 48 hours of trading, we could come back up for a retest and failure. So we'll just have to wait and see what the price action brings. Of course, you could be trading now if you want to, putting your stop above yesterday's high or a little bit higher if you thought we're failing and you don't really care about waiting for the news. But I'm going to wait for the news because it is high risk event. So 123.08 is the level I'm watching at the moment. Pound yen has broken higher. I'm just monitoring last month's range here. That's last month's high down to the low. getting close to 79% level. Another thing I'm monitoring, so that's the range of last month. You could be monitoring this whole range, and we're kind of at the 62% level of that whole range. Now we have actually moved into an uptrend on the day chart, so it is a question of which range is governing at the moment. And you know, from a weekly chart perspective, I actually need to be looking at this range and maybe deciding that we've had a 79% pullback. So if looking at the higher time frames, monthly, week, there, all those trends are up, and our day chart trend is up. So looking top down, this is really a 79% pullback within the weekly trends. And we may be starting the next move up. So when we look at this weekly chart, the key level that we've moved back below is that weekly top there at 18400. So that would be the level to watch as we're moving up, really, I think. 184. You know, if we're going to see any failure on this upward move, it would be at 184. And this high that we've moved above, we have a 4-hour uptrend here. 62 is fractioning below this area of old resistance, but we could just spike down there. So really looking at that 4-hour range, looking at this area, old resistance to be support, I think, at this stage for maybe this pound yen to move higher. It's been very strong all year. We have had this corrective phase down, but I think looking at the weekly chart with support coming in down here at the 79% level, and is now breaking above this area that we're failing at before, I think this is flipped to the upside now, and look, I'll be looking for a retracement to these old highs. So approximately the 183 level is where support is at the moment. All right. Of course, there's always a caveat at the moment with these yen pairs is if that dollar yen gets back up to 150, where we probably had intervention last week, I'd be very cautious about being long a yen pair, because we could get another one of these significant declines that we got down here last week. All right, let's move over into the Aussie yen. Now I've been monitoring this potential head and shoulder pattern, left shoulder, head, right shoulder. We've touched the weekly resistance level, 95.85. I've actually been waiting to see if we can come up to the high just there, pretty much 96.06, 79% level at 96.09. So just waiting to see if we can get a spike up. All right, now, if today we don't move any higher today and we end up with a rejection candle today, I'll have to shift my thought process a little bit and look to getting in to the short side a little bit lower down. But at the moment, I'm still waiting to see if we are finally failing today, or can we come up to the highest point. All right. So we're still in an uptrend here on the 4-hour chart. So I'm just waiting to see if this can come into this area. Day chart did kind of look like we got to that line, but when we get to the 4-hour chart, we've been a little bit short of the whole area at the moment. So we could see a spike up into that area later in the day when the news comes out. So my preferred option would be to see this hit that 96.06 level. It's weekly resistance. Beg your pardon, it's this daily resistance here. Stop above the high really would be the trade. All right, Aussie dollar. Similar area I'm looking at up here is a 79% level and 64.58. 64.58 is this old monthly level of support that we've been below and headbutting into last month. Waiting to see if we can get one more touch there to put in a lower top. Yesterday, we did actually trade higher and then actually broke the low of yesterday. So maybe we can't get up there. If we break the lower yesterday, well, I don't think we're getting up there. But at the moment, we're not quite doing that yet. So there's a lower yesterday. Now, what I can also see, let's say we can't get up there, we may be forming, you know, last night I discussed the head and shoulder pattern. This could be a little left shoulder, head. Later in the day, this may just simply come up and spike up to the right shoulder forming opposite the left shoulder here. So 79% levels at 64.32. That would be a level to watch as well through the course of the day after the news event. All right. If we don't see any major volatility, but we do come up and start to hold at 64.32 and start to turn over, then I would be anticipating a head and shoulder pattern forming there for then a move back down the range. So that's a lower level to watch. If we get lots of volatility and we spike right up, then I'm watching up here at 64.54 to 64.58. All right. So I'm not prepared to do anything ahead of the news event tonight. It's going to be very volatile, I'm sure, when it comes out. New Zealand yen. It's having a day down today. It's false breaking. Resistance up there. Are we getting a turnaround up there? On, you know, if we go to the New Zealand dollar, we're potentially getting a double top up here. False breaking this high and this high. So both the New Zealand crosses are looking a little bit like they're topping. So New Zealand yen. False breaking this weekly high in this area at the moment. Starting to break below yesterday's low, which is kind of confirming a lower top here. Starting to move below the 79% level. So after the news event, you know, watch 89.68 up to 89.18. Those are my resistance levels. That higher one's from the monthly chart is this high over here, 89.91. So those are my two levels I'm using. So after when the news comes out tonight, it may come back up, but I would, you know, be looking up here if it came back up there for another failure. Failed there yesterday on a little double top forming on the 4-hour chart. We've actually got a lower top and a lower bottom here at the moment, but this could still come up to retest that area last week's high. So watch 89.68 to 89.18. Can it come back up for another retest? So you could look for a higher level to get short. But anticipating this is topping out here to move back down to 87. All right. Looking for opportunities after the news. Can it offer you a rally? Now, if you go back to the day chart, you could, if you're quite happy to get in before the news, we're already breaking the low yesterday. You could be selling stop above this high up here. If you want a position trade and you don't care about the news. So starting to confirm a lower top, that would be the play if you wanted to position that. New Zealand dollar, again from a positional play with this double top, we have broken the lower yesterday. So if this could just uptick a little bit, trying to get short very close to yesterday's low, stop above the high, that would be a positional play for the double top. From a lower time frame perspective at the moment, it's starting to put a lower top, lower bottom in. So I would be watching this 60.15 level, this day chart high over here that we're false breaking. Can we come back up to that area, 60.15? From a double top perspective, I like to be getting in by the 79% level of the range so that you can maximize the overall profitability if the double top is going to run out. Now, the target for the double top will be way down at the 200% marker down here. That's at 56.92. So there's 300 pips to go at the moment, but you want to be getting in the early phase of the move. So after the news, do we revisit 60.15? That would be a good area to start to look for an entry for the potential of that double top running down the chart once more. All right. You can see today on the 50-minute chart how it's starting to use 60.15 as resistance. So if we get another retest up here after the news, that's the level to watch. All right, dollar Canadian, little area put in there on Tuesday. We haven't quite got down there yet. A little day chart high here at 135.43. Not even able to get down to the 62% level here. So it's definitely getting support. A little bit ahead of the 62 level. Don't forget, higher bottom, higher top here on the day chart. Even though we're failing at the 79% area of the monthly range, still a question of the dominance of the US dollar. We may be getting support in the area that we're in for a further move up. And whilst I'm using that low there, I just want to see the whole range. This is last month's range. That's a day chart low, but this is the range of last month. And depending on what the news brings in today, if we can spike down to this area here, 62% level just underneath of the monthly range is at 135.34. That supports at 135.43. So depending on what price wants to do, and that's the day chart low there. It is showing a little bit of an uptrend on the 4-hour chart at the moment. I'm not convinced yet that this won't come down into this area and have a go at support. So I'll be watching to see if we can come down to support at the moment on that pair. So I'm just monitoring that. Dollar franc, as I've been saying before on Tuesday, watching for this to rally back up. Potential for a lower top on the monthly chart to form here. It all depends what the US dollar wants to do, of course. But structurally here, this is in opposition to what the euro dollar is telling us. I think the euro dollar now on the monthly chart's down, whereas on the dollar franc, the monthly chart is down as well. Usually these are in opposition. So there is a mixture of trends on some of these pairs, which makes, if you like to look at correlation, it becomes difficult because they're not quite correlated at the moment, especially euro dollar and dollar franc. So this could be actually forming a lower top on the monthly chart at 79% level. We folks broke this area, this weekly high, and the day chart trend has turned it down. So I'm just monitoring for a rally and the first lower top to form. So if that is the low, I said that on Tuesday, and we've had 2 more days down. So when the low comes in and we do get a rally, that at the moment, if we don't really move down anymore, the 62 level overlaps perfectly with this weekly high over here. That would be a great area to watch for failure if we can rally back up. But, you know, thinking that there's more time to sell at the moment on this pair when we're we're in the 7th negative day. So if you like the idea of selling the dollar franc, you don't want to be selling it on the 7th negative day. You want to look for a rally to occur and then look to see a turnover of the rally. So I would be looking for a rally at the moment. Can we come up 62% level there? Overlaps with the weekly high over here. Are we forming up here a lower top on the monthly chart? All right, I didn't get around to the dollar yen the other day. Run out of time. Big question with the dollar yen is the whole intervention. There's the intervention candle on the 4-hour chart. And it came in when we got up to a price point of 150.15 just after the US news event last week. So I think it was the job openings last week. The news event, though, isn't really the issue. The big issue is as soon as we got above 150, the thing was heavily sold off. So at the moment, if we go to the day chart, since then it's been very, very range bound. 148.84 is a is the last lower top formed, or the first lower top formed after we put in last year's high. So we are just holding above that level, but quite clearly we're in the area where sellers started to come in last year, and then intervention started to come in, and we moved down for a period of time, for about 3 months, give or take. So we're definitely back into the sellers level. So that's why I was saying on the pound yen, pound yen may be looking bullish at the moment, but if this thing starts to drop, pound yen will follow suit. So don't trade north on a yen pair at the moment in isolation of what you're seeing on the dollar yen, I think would be the way to go. So a bit difficult here at the moment. It's very sideways. You know, if we break below this higher bottom, that would move this to a downside. I have no reason, you know, in my mind, I think this is too high in the dollar yen to be a buyer, especially when the Bank of Japan keeps intervening. So I've got nothing's encouraging me to buy this. I'm just waiting to see if we see a breakdown to the downside. And as you can see, we have on the day chart here, we have a lower top and a higher bottom. So things are mixed. On the 4-hour chart, you know, looking at the range of last week, 79% levels at 149.56, and last month's highs up here at 149.70. So, I mean, coming up here and then seeing it fail. There is some imbalance in here yet on that candle. We can just drop it down to a 1-hour chart. You'd have to drop down to a 15-minute chart to see the complete imbalance. But really, you know, the imbalance starts up here. So really, that would be seeing price action come back up to at least test last month's high to fill some imbalance that's in here on the lower time frame. So I really will just be monitoring to see if this can come up to the high levels, back up to the higher levels where it dropped from. I mean, the only place I think you could look for a buy here at the moment is to see is if price comes down to retest that intervention low, and you can see it stopped at this area of support through here. So if it was to come back down to here and then hold, and you start to see a 4-hour rejection, then okay, you could enter, you know, you're at the low levels where the buyers are coming in. All right, so then if you want to get long dollar yen, that's the area to watch and look for an opportunity. All right, but I'm pretty sure the Bank of Japan's watching the price of this like a hawk. It was not happy when that got above 150. So I'm sure I'll have the same message above 150. All right, let's get into gold. Still having that rally as we, you know, obviously have that war now in Israel happening, started on the weekend. What they're classing as a terrorist attack first of all, but now it's obviously embarked into a war. But putting that aside, on the weekly chart here on gold, we are lower top, lower bottom. Got overstretched, and so technically this is just coming back to broken support. We haven't quite got there yet, so we may hit broken support today when the news comes out. So that's at 1884 is broken support, and there's another one, 2 weekly levels of support broken, higher levels at 1892. Then the 62% fibs at 1895. So that was the area I colored in on Tuesday. So, you know, if you want to trade gold, I'll be watching that area for a potential reversal. All right, I think the only real pair or instrument, this isn't a pair, it's class it as an instrument or a commodity. Gold's obviously gotten bullish on the back of what's been happening in Israel, but it's really a rally of the last move. And on Monday, oil today chart, I did gap up, but wasn't able to hold the gap. All right, so it didn't continue up, it came back down to fill the gap. So from other instruments that have reacted to Monday's opening, oils come back down to where it closed on Friday. It may be putting in a higher bottom here. We'll have to wait and see, but we're not seeing a massive rush up to like $100 or beyond because of what's happening in Israel. So there is obviously then the high potential that this could just hold here and then move back down. We're not seeing a run on these commodities, I don't think, in the face of what's happening in Israel. All right, so of course, if you're coming in late, you know, it's worth stating, we've got the US interest rate decision. We've already had the FOMC meeting minutes coming out this morning. That didn't really shed any new light. At the last interest rate statement where they didn't raise rates, they said they're going to need to hold rates at a high level for a long period of time. That's pretty much what the meeting minutes did say. But they also said that whether they raise interest rates or decide that they're going to lower interest rates, it's going to be data dependent. So, you know, this is the next major data information coming out. What will happen with inflation figures? And Miriam, you've got a question? That's quite a large question. Let me just read it to myself. All right, so the basis of the question is, during the news event, how do you usually spot the first bear bull candle after the market started to digest the data to retrace the movement? Or I'm simply wait and see a form structure and then enter the market? I use an indicator to measure the movement for spotting the rally where to stop or fade. If it's a news event thing, an indicator won't help you because it'll be too slow to get you in, because prices, it may rush up to a price point and then turn around quite quickly, and the indicator will be too slow in telling you when it's moving, because prices, you're just watching price action. If you've seen price move back down, that's the thing to watch. It's going to be difficult on some of these pairs. What I'm going to be looking for is I may not be able to do anything tonight when the news comes out, because price will often at CPI data time, the candle can be like 100 pips long for the first 15 minutes. So what I'll probably be looking for is in the first hour, let's say, so let's just talk about, say, the euro dollar here. I don't know what the candle will do, but the candle could, if it's 100 pips or if it's 50 pips, however large it is, you know, we could end up with a candle that's like that, first of all. So I won't be doing anything on the first candle. I'll be waiting for the first candle to do its thing. And then I'll just start to watch what the next few candles do. Now, what you might see is this could spike down, it could spike up, and then the next candle could be a lot smaller. And then we might get another candle, and then the next candle may start to come up, and then it may start to hold and deal at that level. So what I look for is if price is around the level that I'm looking at, I'm just watching on the 15-minute chart to see if it starts to hold. All right. Then, again, depending on how the price action is forming, I may then see a candle that breaks, say, these two 15-minute candles. So then I could use that as a trigger to get short, and I could simply, break of those two candle lows, I could be looking to get short on that as a trigger. And I could be putting my stop just above there. All right, so I'll be looking at the candles and see what they start to do. Sometimes it never gives a clear, you don't get a clear indication because you're not going to have swing points forming. You're just looking at the 15-minute candles forming. So I start to make a judgment. Do I start to see a breakdown of the low points that have been forming over the last couple of candles? And if it's unclear, what I will then do is I'll just simply let price action sort itself out. And then I'll have a look tomorrow. I'll go to bed because it'll be 10:30 at my time. So I'll be looking at it till midnight. If I see a clear signal, I'll get in. If I don't, then potentially then tomorrow, let's say we spike up to that candle at top here. And then it's unclear what it's doing, but when I wake up tomorrow, we've traded down. All right, so then tomorrow what I can look for is to see if price comes back up to then retest this area. And then do I see a failure point up here that I can trade tomorrow? Sometimes when the news events come out, I just can't get in because it's just too chaotic and I don't know which way it's going. If that's the case, I just wait. I just wait until it doesn't look chaotic and then I look for a setup. A trend line break to the downside, something like that. But no indicator is going to help you at that time because price is just moving too quickly and indicators are very slow. All right. So in all probability, the true reality will be, unless it's a very slow event, let's say price action comes in exactly as expected, then we may not get too much volatility and price may just simply, come up a little bit like a candle like so, might spike through a little bit, and then it might start over the next couple of candles wanting to hold at 106.35. Doesn't really want to get above 106.35, maybe trading down to 106.30 and wants to hold. Well, that just tells me then, okay, any movement up has been met now by the sellers at 106.35. And, I should be looking maybe to short now, and I just have to work out how many pips I want to give it room for my stop. That's generally how I do it, but it all depends how the candle forms at the time. At the moment, putting the news aside, it looks like it's already failed up here. But when the news comes out later in the day, now let's say, if we just talk about this price action here, well, what I can see is price comes up to the very close to the level that I've been discussing as a level to watch. And there was a very micro swing point formed just here or here in this area here. So really when price action broke this level, see it comes down, it rallies back up, it's putting in a lower top here. That's starting to tell you we're moving down. All right, it's not 100% clear here, but I'm just using this price action as an example because this is how price could look after the news. You could get, in fact, I've done this before, you could get a volatile spike up like this, and then the next candle looks like this. It's just a smaller candle inside. So then what I would wait for is a break of that candle, stick low, and then I put my stop above here. And if you've done the same thing yesterday, you can see, well, you get triggered in, it starts to move back up, but it doesn't come up to the high and then starts to move down. All right, so that's sometimes how price will look. You take this spike up here, you can see it spikes up and the next candle is very, very long down. It doesn't really give you a tight entry point to get in. So it all depends what price will do on the day. Will it be a friendly new spike? Will then price put in some small candles that you can start to trade around or not? If it doesn't give me a nice looking area to trade, I just wait to the next day and see what comes around. And it wouldn't surprise me. See how yesterday we came up here within 1 pip and then sells off. Then it comes up to trade at the level today. It wouldn't surprise me to see this maybe sell off today, however it reacts to the news, and still come back up and retest this level. Or let's say it just drops down here today. Then what I would do is put a fib in across that of today's trading range for tomorrow and see whether price can come up to 79% level tomorrow or come up for another test. Sometimes price will test that level 3 days in a row. So it tested it yesterday. It's clearly testing it today. And then it could actually test that level again tomorrow. All right, so that's how I look at, sometimes the news will be friendly to trade around, and other times you just can't get in. It's always better, and we don't have this scenario today, it's always better, like we did have a news event yesterday. We had the PPI data, but it got nowhere near that level. And then this is probably more when the FMC came out, the meeting minute news. And then we dropped. So it's always better if you have a level that you're watching it and price is actually lower down, and then the news drives up to the level and then holds, and hopefully trade quite close to the level. Marion saying, does the Eurodollar chart at the moment seems non-failure swing or a failure swing? I'm not sure what you mean by non-failure swing. So I'm not quite sure of your question. What I think's potentially happening on the day chart here is this, whilst this looks like we could be moving into an uptrend from a day chart trend, I'm just pausing because my dog's barking. That doesn't mean to say just because we're moving above this high here, then now we're going to get a long-term elongated upward move, because the weekly trend is down. So that day chart swing point here is the high of that is potentially, I think, the high of that weekly candle there. So it's just breaking above last week's high before possibly it might false break it to move back down. So we could see a complete failure above this level because it's trading into this significant monthly area of resistance. So to me, I would be watching quite clearly that high, and that's the area that I drew in the other day on Tuesday. It's that high point there. I said, watch this area because it was the day chart top there. So I said, watch the area from that day chart top to monthly resistance. So we could see a complete failure at this level. So I don't know if that's what your question is from that, failure of a swing point, but that day chart swing point, which is there, we could completely fail there. And over the next 24 hours, 40 hours, we could see here on the 4-hour chart that we come down and break that 4-hour low. And then we could draw a fib. We may then see price action come back up to retest that swing point to fail. To then move down this way. So, of course, your first question was how to trade the news tonight. I don't know whether you'll be able to trade the news tonight. I don't worry if I can't trade the news, because if we do fail up there today, in all probability, price will come down and then rally and give you the opportunity to get in. All right. If it doesn't, you just wait for another opportunity somewhere else. Okay. So the biggest risk at the moment is trading that news event ahead of time. And then the second biggest risk is trying to trade it afterwards if it's not clear. The less risky event would be waiting till tomorrow for some form of rally. If price action drops first of all, then I would be looking for some kind of, wouldn't be a perfect head and shoulders, but you could say that could be a left shoulder dust here, even though there's a little further top up there, but that could act as resistance here, which is opposite this area over here. This could be a head up here. We drop, rally, and then move back down. So I would be looking for that kind of formation potentially. And the same thing on the pound dollar. We traded through here a couple of times on the day chart. And again, we've got this swing point here. But if we can't hold above this swing point, that will be a failure. And the 4-hour charts, we're seeing a very nice reversal candle at the moment on the 4-hour chart. But it depends what the news brings later on. Is the easiest way to trade this at the moment is to allow this to move down, if that's what it wants to do. Be nice if it moves down and moves back below that high there, and then again you look for a rally back up to close to 123, and then look for an opportunity short. All right, Tim, you're asking me in terms of correlation, what do you say about these pairs? For example, pound yen versus the dollar yen, they are correlated, yep, but it all depends. Sometimes you might say they're not, because, well, then you go on the second one option is pound yen versus pound dollar. Pound yen is correlated to the dollar yen if we're seeing extreme strength or weakness on the yen side. Pound yen will be correlated to the pound dollar if we're seeing extreme strength or weakness on the pound side. So what sometimes you see is, and it's probably more in recent times, although the pound yen has been moving down, if we're seeing complete US dollar strength and the dollar yen's moving up, and we're seeing the pound dollar moving down strongly, what you'll tend to see then is that pound yen will go sideways. And that's the same with any other yen cross. So if we're looking at the euro yen versus the dollar yen, or the euro yen versus the euro dollar, if we're seeing strong move, so strength to the US dollar and the dollar yen's moving up and the euro dollar is moving down, then the euro yen will go sideways. And that's what we've actually been seeing on the euro yen over the last month, except for the intervention that we've seen down here. This has just been sideways all the way through here, because the dollar yen's been moving up, the euro dollar's been moving down. So then the correlation that you're talking about, I could say this is the pound yen, for example, if this pound yen was sideways, because this is often what the pound yen will do if the dollar yen's moving up and the pound dollar is moving down, or conversely, if the pound dollar is moving up strongly and the dollar yen's moving down strongly, the pound yen will go sideways. All right, it all depends what currencies in those correlated contrasts that you're looking at is strong or weak, what's strengthening, what's weakening. All right, in very risk off times, so that's when stock markets are crashing, what we would generally see is the pound yen and the pound dollar would be moving down. All right, and then sometimes as well we see the dollar yen moving down all at the same time. It all depends what the driving factors are, but the way you've got it there, one and two, those two pairs in one and in two are correlated, but it depends what is the driver in the market. Lachlan, yeah, you're asking me, day close above these levels, would you look to buy or pull back to resistance? Yeah, so on this pound dollar and the euro dollar, we go to a day chart. Of course, at the moment, we're holding at resistance from a day chart perspective. If we get a strong close above today, then a pull back to 123.08, you're looking at to be support. And same on the euro dollar. If we close strongly above 106.35, pull back to be support for sure. So Tim, yeah, you're saying, so it depends on the relative strength. Yeah, it depends what each currency is doing. But yeah, pound yen and dollar yen are correlated because you've got the yen on the same side of the currency pair name. And pound yen versus pound dollar correlated because you've got the pound on the left-hand side. But it does depend what's happening. You know, in that scenario there, you're talking about three currencies, aren't you? Combination of three currencies in different pair names. In fact, four. Sorry, there's four names. There's four currencies there. It all depends. Sometimes a currency can be quite quiet. It all depends which of the currencies in those four currencies in those pairs are strongly moving up or down. All right. I'm more, if I'm looking at, say, the yen pairs in terms of correlation, I'd be more looking at them as a whole group. Are we seeing a strong move on Aussie yen, New Zealand yen, Euro yen, pound yen, dollar yen, all in the same direction? From a pure yen correlation, because sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. More recently, we've been seeing dollar yen moving up, but then the other yen pairs being maybe sideways to down, as the pairs to the US dollar been moving down. So as I said, often I'll look at them as a whole group, or look at all the yen pairs together. Is a good way. All right, so I might wrap it up there. There's no more questions. So, putting aside the news at the moment, it is looking like these resistance levels are holding. You can see here on the 4-hour chart, the euro dollar. If we weren't looking at any news coming out tonight, I think, you could be looking to be shorting this, moving down from 106.35. Stop above the high. Same on the pound dollar. Just had a very nice 4-hour outside reversal candle. This is the buyers trying to push this above 23.08, and the sellers don't want to have a bar of that, and now they've gone, no thank you, and pushed it straight back below. Whether that's going to be the same story after the news event, we'll have to wait and see. So putting the news aside, we're seeing some failures there, but what's that euro yen doing at the moment? Euro yen is, this day chart here is holding up here. 2 4-hour negative candles coming in at that area. But once the news comes out, things could be different. And Tim, you're asking me, develop a presentation on news trade. I don't trade the news. It's too volatile and unpredictable. I just stand aside when the news comes out, and then I wait to see if it offers me the opportunity after that. And a lot of the time, I'm not getting in. If there's a major news event, I'm not getting in maybe till 24 hours later, because I'm waiting for price action to settle down and then show me an opportunity to get in. So people want to know how to trade the news because they think that we've got all this volatility, and I can see price moving strongly up or down after the news, and that could be making some money. So what you have is the fear of missing out. All right, but having traded the forex market now for the best part of almost 20 years, I tend to avoid the news because it's just too. If I don't have positions that are well managed and in good profit, I'm waiting for the news to pass and then for a pattern or a setup to set up. I'm not really in the news window too strongly. So, I mean, with exception, if price just spikes up to a level that I'm watching, I can see it hold, sometimes we'll have a go. But generally speaking, I'm avoiding the news. That's usually where a lot of traders lose their money, because they have the fear of missing out. They want to be in because they can see price moving, and you can get whipsawed very badly. And I would encourage you to actually, step aside and just learn to see what's happening. Because I'm sure if we drop on the euro dollar today, like I was saying, if this drops, whether it's Friday or into next week, Monday, this will probably come up for some kind of rally. All right. And then give you the opportunity to get in. So, and we can see what price does come next Tuesday. So next webinar coming up from me is next Tuesday. If you have the time and you want to catch up with what price is doing, then just head over to the webinar page, and that will be me. Where are we? Scrolling down, 17th of October, next Tuesday, 8 p.m. That's the next time I'm on a webinar, okay? All right, everybody. have a good end of the week. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next.